Someone recently asked me to name one thing I loved about myself. Not something I'm good at, not something other people compliment me on, but something I genuinely love about who I am. The word that came to mind was tenacious. And immediately after saying it, I second guessed myself a little. Like, was that too bold? Was I giving myself too much credit? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that tenacious really does describe me. And I also know this isn't just my story. This is a story of many. Of people who keep going when they're exhausted. Of people who are carrying things no one else can see. Of people who are taking small steps forward while the world makes them feel like it should be bigger, faster, easier. For me, tenacity isn't loud. It's not this big dramatic, watch me conquer the world kind of energy. It's quieter than that. It's getting out of bed on days where I barely want to exist. It's doing the work when I'm exhausted in a way that goes deeper than just being tired. It's continuing to show up. And if I'm being honest, I didn't just wake up one day and decide I was tenacious. Life forced me to learn what that really meant. In late 2011, right before I was supposed to move to Kansas, I was in a really bad car accident on Interstate 10 in Houston. I got sandwiched between a Dodge Charger and a Chevy Suburban. I went to physical therapy for a couple of weeks, but I was so focused on starting this new chapter of my life that I pushed myself to getting released early. I had lifelong injuries, months of physical therapy even, but I ignored them. I just wanted to move on. I just wanted to get to Kansas. That decision backfired because I wasn't healed. Not physically, not mentally, not emotionally, but I packed up my life anyway. A few weeks later, in early 2012, I moved everything from Texas to Kansas for a man I thought I was going to marry. We had been in a long-distance relationship since 2010. I left my job, gave away my furniture, and packed everything I had into my little Chevy Aveo and drove 14 hours north. I was excited. It felt like an adventure, but it didn't turn out the way I thought it would. Not even 2 days from arrival, the relationship changed. He made a decision on his own that we would no longer be intimate until marriage. We had never talked about it. I was upset, but I loved him, so I stayed. I waited. I adjusted. But slowly I stopped being a partner and started feeling like a placeholder, a housewife, a mother to his kids. He worked long hours, and I would find him asleep on the sofa at 3 a.m. I was someone who gave everything and wasn't really being chosen back. I wasn't taking care of myself physically or mentally. I was isolated, super depressed. I was already hurting, and then my body started sending signals I didn't understand yet. The pain, the inflammation, the weight gain, the exhaustion, the rashes, the joint pain. My body felt like it was turning against me. And then it all collided. It's been a year now in Kansas, 2013. Everything started coming to the surface. I was dealing with severe psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. I found out I had PCOS. My periods were lasting 60 days or more. Doctors were trying to manage symptoms without really hearing me. I couldn't take hormones because of blood clot risks, so options were limited. And then in April, my body forced the issue. I ended up in the ICU with a blood clot after all. in my left leg, hip to ankle. That was the moment everything stopped being ignorable, because I wasn't just lose weight. It wasn't just you'll be fine. It wasn't just stress. Something was really wrong. My body was inflamed. My immune system was fighting itself, and I truly believe I was carrying years of stress, trauma, and unprocessed emotions that I had pushed down for so long they had nowhere left to go. So my body started speaking to me, and it spoke loudly. A month later, I made one of the hardest decisions of my life. I left Kansas. I left him. I left his children that I loved. I left the life I thought I was building. I moved back to Texas with nothing. No job, no home, no real plan, just starting over. I was at my heaviest weight, well over 400 pounds. My health was terrible. I was grieving a relationship that people didn't understand and honestly didn't want to hear about. But I still kept going. I got a job. It paid well, but it was a toxic environment, and I pushed myself way too hard trying to fix my life instead of actually healing. And eventually, my body forced me to stop again. In 2014, I developed another blood clot, this time in my lungs, a pulmonary embolism. I had to leave my job. I moved in with my sister, who is a nurse, and she took care of me in ways I will always be grateful for. I started seeing a hematologist, and I'll never forget this moment. He looked at me, grabbed my hand, and said, "How are you doing it?" I didn't understand what he meant, and he said, "Your hemoglobin is barely a 6. Normal levels are in the teens. How are you functioning? How are you getting up every day and going to work?" And I just cried, because I didn't know that I was that sick. I knew I felt awful, but I didn't realize my body was running on almost nothing. And still, I was showing up. Not perfectly, not gracefully. Honestly, I was a mess. But I didn't stop. And it took me years, until around 2019, to really face myself and take full accountability for my life. That was the turning point. Because once I owned that, I could finally start changing it. So when I say that I love that I am tenacious, this is what I mean. I've been through depression, grief, chronic illness and pain, health issues that could have taken me out, losing people I loved, losing versions of myself, and rebuilding more than once. And I still keep going. I did not quit. Not always in the right direction, not always in a way I'm proud of, but I never fully gave up on myself. And this is just part of my story. I may not always share things in perfect chronological order. Life didn't happen to me in neat chapters, and healing didn't either. But where I am now matters too. Even in my current life, it has moments of difficulty and pain. I am doing so much better. I've talked about pieces of that in other posts and conversations, but the truth is, I'm in a much better place in all ways. I still have the ailments. I still have things I manage every day, but I am managing myself better now. I understand myself more. I treat myself differently. I know that I am worthy of love. I'm worthy of exploring. I'm worthy of putting my name on the top of my take care of list in my own life. And I'm learning that being tenacious doesn't just mean pushing through everything. It also means being kind to myself, listening to my body, trusting my intuition. That's a different kind of strength, and it's what I'm still learning every day. So yeah, I love that about myself. Because even at my lowest, when everything hit at once, and I had every reason to quit, I didn't. And now, I'm finally learning how to live, not just survive. It's pretty freaking awesome.